Hi, everybody. Hopefully, I turned my music down enough for everybody today. Um, I'm gonna go over my build guide. I'm even gonna turn my camera on for shits and gigs. I do stream sometimes on Twitch. I'm not really a super regular Twitch streamer. Gotta move my camera. That was so delayed. Oh my gosh, why was that so delayed? Alright. Anyway, I'm gonna go over the build. I'm going to show you guys a quick as it can be, level 100 or floor 100 clear of the forge at tier 10. I'm going to go over the modifiers here real quick that I have. So the base one, just giving you all the mobs, stacked up attack speed, enemies have 60% life, sieger's life, attack speed, random curse, enemies have 872% life. That's equivalent to my current goldest quantity. I did take that just to test the build to see if it would be able to make it through with taking the curse that usually ends most runs, and we did it just fine. Um, yeah, beyond that, this stuff doesn't really matter that much. We're going to finish this 100th wave, and then I'll go over the build. Now, you're going to see a lot of totems here. The totems aren't a huge part of our DPS, but they definitely do help, especially when a whole bunch stack up on us, because we did take the note that they benefit from all our projectile things. You can see at the bottom there, we're clearing well over 1.4 bill, 1.5 billion DPS. We're just sitting still and tanking everything. Now, we could die if we get extremely unlucky, but I'll show you why that's almost never going to happen once we finish here. And that's it. We've cleared wave 100. We're good to open our chest. See, we got some okay stuff in there. Let's just open it. And we got a bunch of gold. Bunch of fragments. Nothing had a pure stat for evasion or projectile speed, which is all we really want at this point. And we'll clear it out. So our total damage dealt, highest damage dealt, our average DPS. Our highest damage dealt was 589 mil and one crit. Wow. I didn't actually know it was that high. I'm going to screenshot this real quick. Just post it to the Discord. Right. Because I am going to be uploading this as a video, obviously, so maybe this will build a little bit of hype for everybody. Oh, I see Zeka messaged me. And then we'll do build video coming soon. Alright, there we go. Alright, so let's go over the build. So I want to break it down probably starting from what gave me the idea for the build. So that might make everybody understand it a little bit better and why I thought this would be powerful. It ended up being extremely powerful. Let's just shoot a little bit here real quick. Get our evasion up. So I'll just show you the stats real quick. This is what we look like with our evasion buff. We're at over 98% to dodge. We've got a whole bunch of average skill damage. Elemental damage we don't really care about in this build. We've got a huge amount of mana, but we have 0 mana because we're sealing it all, and we'll talk about that here soon. So what gave me the idea for the build? This node, right here. I saw this node and I thought, wow, that is extremely strong. what can I do with that much mana? There's got to be something that I can do with that much mana that gives me a whole bunch of damage. Well, there is something that gives us a whole bunch of damage for a whole bunch of mana. If we go into an Ancestral Legacy tree, there's something called Raw Lock. Raw Lock gives you raw damage equivalent to your total 20% of your total locked mana. So when we've got our buff up here, I just want to make sure it's up so we can see the actual damage we're getting. Yeah, okay, we're getting 267 raw damage, or 267k. That you can put that up a little bit, but with my testing, it's better to set up your passive points like this. So the reason I've done this, I was originally all the way into Fury to get that evasion on dodge, but this damage dealt to an enemy for increased distance from you to him is another scalar for your damage, so it's actually quite powerful, especially if the enemy is like really far away from you. We took all of our stuff out of raw damage, so none of this is... Oh, that's actually, that could be really strong too. That'd be something worth testing at some point. Anyway, we took it all out. Our damage didn't go down from the raw damage. Our damage did go down a little bit from taking evasion out. Evasion is our main scalar because we get evasion equal to our mana, and then 20% of whatever our mana locked is our raw damage. So we don't actually have hardly any raw damage on this build, but we have a whole bunch of raw damage because we seal all the mana, and then using that we're able to get a whole bunch of damage from it. It's actually inefficient in my opinion to take any raw damage or raw damage percent, because the scaling for that doesn't apply to the raw damage from mana lock, and you can get so much from mana lock that you can focus on your damage for other things. And this isn't optimized. I'm going to talk about that here later in the video. I learned some things as I was getting to the end of the build that would have made this way more powerful. Like, we're talking probably would have doubled to tripled the damage that it's already doing. And I probably will end up grinding out the gear for that, but I'll tell you guys what you need to do just so you don't have to make the same mistake I did. So yeah, another thing that helped with this build, because I of course had to go through a lot of Storm Reapers, was the bow. The bow that we're going to be using for this build was the Bow of the Ungifted, and that name actually cracks me up because it's pretty gifted bow. Your primary skills deal increased damage equal to your percent of mana locked, increased by 87%. So we lock more mana, we get more damage. We want to lock mana because that gives us flat damage. So this is giving us a percent damage modifier, right? So it's great. It's a multiplicative scaling. Then underneath that, you can see the mana cost of a skill is less than 13 or 1.3 million. The mana cost is reduced to 0. So we can seal all of our skills. If you have a skill that costs more than 1.3 million mana, please send me a screenshot of it. You probably see me in the Discord sometimes. Send me a screenshot because that would crack me up. I'd love to see that. The mana cost is reduced to 0. Yeah, so we've covered that. The mana locked can now exceed 100%. So that is why it's saying 1.3 million is our mana locked, right? Because it's equal to our mana locked. And we only have like 800,000, just under 900,000 mana. So what we're doing is we're locking more than that. We're locking 150%, and 150% of that is the 1.3 mil. Yeah, I am making a video, Treb. Hi, guys. Thanks for stopping in. The mana locked exceeding 150% can go endlessly, right? Oh, thank you for that. I appreciate the follow. Right in the video. That's perfect. But is the audio not synced? I think there is something weird going on with my camera, dude. It's just my camera, and I don't know why. It's probably gonna be unsynced for the video too, isn't it? Whatever. Things happen, you know. It'll probably drive some people crazy and they'll comment on it, but you know, that's good conversation, right? He dubbed himself. He is part of the anime. Exactly. All right. I'm going to try to continue on with the build here, just so the video doesn't drag on too much. The malediction for this bow for us is a good thing. We want to seal as much mana as possible. So we're sealing 50% mana from this, 25% HP. The HP doesn't matter that much, but it does help with Celestial Decree, which is one of the seals we are going to be using. I'll go over those real quickly. Celestial Decree isn't really super amazing, but it seals some of our mana, so we do use it. Let's see, which piece of gear is it on right here? So it is going to trigger some damage. It's going to scale with our raw damage. So one of the things Celestial Decree is good for, along with Fenrir's Barrage, is Fenrir's Barrage and Celestial Decree are going to be able to hit the enemies that have the shield bubbles. So the ones that are annoying that your projectiles can't hit, these two attacks can go right through it and kill them. It isn't going to be the fastest thing if there's a bunch of mobs around, but when it's just them, it'll take them down pretty quickly and you won't have to worry about them. The other auras that we're going to be using are, of course, the Fenrir's. That one doesn't conserve mana, but it's a free chance to cast Rain of Arrows, and it scales with your points in Rain of Arrows. So you don't have to have it on your bar, and you still get it as an attack. It's triggered like 28% of the time, every second. So basically every 4 seconds you're going to be firing it. The other auras are Ultrasound Wave. This one locks 15% mana as well. It doesn't do much for us in damage. It does do some damage, but it's just for 15% more mana lock for the most part. Anything else beyond that for auras? We'll go back here for the gear later. No. Okay, so we'll go to the Ancestral tree because I know there's auras in there. So we are using Air Conditioner. Air Conditioner seals 20% of your mana. It's also going to help with your dodge chance. We're already at 98% dodge, but it's going to slow down the attack speed of mobs, so that's almost like a multiplicative scalar to your dodge, right? If they're attacking you less, that's less chance for them to hit you, less chance for your dodge to actually have to go off. Raw Lock is not an aura, but I'm just going to go back to it here again. This is what you're getting like all your damage from on this build. We'll just take a look at it while we're here. That and some other things. We'll go over it with the skills later. This is just for pathing. You don't really need to worry about this. This is also for pathing. Doesn't really matter that much. This is for pathing. You can use it. I've never tried it. It's a movement skill. It might be really nice, but it's got a 7-second cooldown. And we've got a much better movement skill that has a much quicker cooldown that I'll show you guys here in a sec. In here, the Lightning Imbue, we do want to take that. This is actually pretty important. We don't care about the lightning damage, but we pair it with this node back here. We'll skip ahead. Consistency is key. This locks 50% of our mana, so that's a huge amount of flat damage for us. And when the aura is toggled on, lightning skills cannot be below 24% of their upper damage range. So what that means is if you've ever played D&D or something like that, it's almost like being lucky. You don't get to roll twice, but it means you're never going to be below a minimum percent of what your damage range is. I'll show you here just after we look at these other two nodes. The damage range on my arrow shot is a very, very small margin because of this. So you're almost always hitting your max damage of your range. This one doesn't really matter too much. It's kind of nice. You build up charges and then you can get some cooldown if you really need it. It's not something I use very often, but it's on the build and something you can use. Might as well max this out because you have it. We do take elemental resistance in this build. Not because we're going to be taking much elemental damage, but if you do get a dot on you, we have a free slot on defensives, technically. So it's the most effective thing to put in. We'll go look at the skills here now. So arrow shot, as I was saying before, we've got a very small spread you can see. For doing 8 to... Actually, that's incorrect. We gotta get our evasion up. For doing 10.6 to 10.8 million damage, right? There's only about a 200k margin there. So it's a very small margin. Where typically it probably more like 10 mil to 1 or 10.8 mil, right? It would be a little bit wider of a margin, so it's... I don't know how much percent damage increase it would be, but I'd say probably about 5%, you know, having that aura on, just like a flat 5% multiplier. We'll go over the notes for each of the skills. Arrow shot is your main damage, of course, from what you were seeing in the forge there earlier. We do use the totem tree. I'll go over this first, just where it is the like class. This is the most important node. This is the whole reason we take this entire tree, and it's the very first node on the tree, so makes it easy. This one is for the totem. It's just to give the totem a little bit extra damage. I think none of these are actually important, really. Lowered by 2, it is lowered in 3. Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want really any of these, and they don't do much. I've inspected into them. I know they give you extra raw damage when you fill everything out, but it's not that much when you have 300,000. You can see I've got a whole bunch of points in this, and it's only giving me 4k, so it's not going to make or break your build. This one, it's really nice. Whenever you kill an enemy, chance for a totem to be summoned. And then we combine that with this one that lets the totems inherit all our projectile modifiers. So when we're in the forge, a lot of the times enemies will spawn right on top of you, and then they'll spawn totems from dying. So you'll have 3 or 4 totems around you that are shotgunning and just barraging the whole map. It's not your main damage, but you can see they're doing almost 1 million damage per shot, so it definitely helps. Like it's probably like a good 5% of your damage, maybe 10. 100% pierce chance, just so you can hit twice. More pierce, 4 can rebound, and then you get a little bit of life leech. That's just so you have some whatsoever. We also get a little bit of life on hit. It's just to regen your health instantly when you take damage in multiple different ways, just in case something ever happens. Arrow shot, nice and easy. Super easy. Couldn't make it any easier. It's a straight line down the middle. We take the rebound chance to make our arrows nice and bouncy. Forking, probably better clearing. This is probably going to be better single target, because not only that, like, even if this is better single target and clearing, there's too many projectiles already, and it's just nice to have the frames, in my opinion. If you want to use these, go ahead. It doesn't really matter. It's just personal preference thing, I guess. You can even use forking and pierce chance if you want. These ones, little more non-negotiable. So you can use Arrow of Illusion for more evasion. More evasion equals more raw flat damage. It's really good. However, if you want to do the absolute highest damage hits, like you want to be hitting like 500 million damage in one crit, you're going to want to use Snapback, and you're going to want to sit there and shoot the wall. As silly as that sounds, you get 100% increased damage if you rebound your shot before you hit the enemy. and that is a, from what it appears, multiplicative scalar, because I was hitting over 500 mil crits in that forge. The next node down is going to be Furious and Fast. If you're just doing maps, you can use so many arrows. If you want to do the absolute most damage, though, Furious and Fast. This is what I learned about a little bit later on in the build. Obviously, seeing this, you want to get as much projectile speed as possible. Like, if you can get 50-60% projectile speed on every piece of your gear, that's going to be like 800, probably 900% or close to. Like, even if you're getting it to 600-700%, like, that is ridiculous. I'm only at 200%. That it can go a lot stronger. Like, that is a huge scalar for your build. We were talking about the percent on the bow earlier. That's another layer of percent that helps us with our damage. Whenever you hit an enemy with arrow shot, it refreshes poison. If the enemy wasn't affected by poison, arrow shot applies poison instead. This effect can only occur once per cast. So we're not forking our shots, so this one doesn't really matter to us that much. Along with the fact that there's already a lot of projectiles. You can add, if you want to add all the all the projectiles, you can go like this. Like, you can switch it up to that. That's perfectly fine. These two nodes, I'd probably keep the same. You can switch this one over for more damage, but I prefer it like this just because it's more stable. And the poison does do all right damage. It's not amazing, but it's a little bit extra. The rain of arrows I will go over just because we do use it on our ring. We don't use it as like a main skill or anything. I probably should go level this up to 15. It doesn't do a huge amount of damage, you see here, but it does help us clear out a lot of stuff, especially after crits and stuff. Like, this can hit 2 or 3 million when it hits an enemy. We've got the travel time is reduced. That just allows it to go down faster. Rain of Arrow lands. It has like a vacuum effect. Minus size in exchange for additional volleys. I don't think that actually works with our ring. I'm going to have to double check that. I don't think any of these... This might. This probably does. But I don't think this one actually does. So maybe do that for the extra damage. Heck, do that for the extra damage anyway. Don't take the increased size. You don't need that. Oh no, it does. It keeps the vacuum going longer. I remember now. And the last node, Rain of Arrow has 1 critical strike chance. Just to give it some extra crit. I think we're already almost at 100% crit or over. I'll go over that in the stats here soon. And then the last one, additional volleys hit more damage. Yeah, okay, so yeah, 100% does work. Next skill, and I'm sorry for not like fully knowing everything there right off the hop. It's just an extra thing. It's not really necessary, and it just does convenience things. Right? Finesse. Finesse is our movement skill. It's not normally a movement skill, and I might actually want to spend more points in it, but I didn't even bother since we just use it as a movement skill. We increase the range by 100%. We give critical strikes, reduce the cooldown time of finesse, so we can use it even more often. And then we use, whenever you cast finesse, you instantly move to the climax area. It's a 1.64 second cooldown, and that's why I was saying earlier when we saw that movement skill in our Ancestral Legacy tree, that we had a much better movement skill because the other one had a 7-second cooldown. This one's only 1.6 seconds. And when you have a bunch of crits going off, it's going to cool down even quicker. That's it for the skills, I believe. We can look at these nodes here just to see if there's anything worth actually taking. So we're never going to be tormented. We trigger overdrive with the nest. So we don't use overdrive. Don't use ravenous daggers. You could do that if you want. It's going to cost you more mana, but everything costs 0 mana anyway, so put that note in. All these other ones don't really matter. It's inconsequential though, like it's not going to make or break your build. It's not going to do anything really. So we'll go over the stats here now. When we're shooting our bow, so we get our evasion buff due to the delighted node. Shows us our average skill damage on a single hit is 859. That's before crits and everything like that. So the highest crit I have seen is around 500 mil, as we saw in the forge there earlier. And I'll just bring that picture up here real quick in the Discord. So our highest damage dealt now is 589 mil. Average DPS is 794 mil. Total damage dealt 2.4 bill. Or no, 2.4 trill, right? Yeah. Okay. So I was going to say I hit billions of damage sometimes. That wouldn't make any sense. Alright. So we've got 98% dodge. That is really strong, first off. You're at a 1 in 50 chance to get hit with that. But if you do get hit, you've got this helmet. This helmet, if you're at 1 life, for example, we'll just do some quick math here. If you're at 1 life and something attacks you, you've got a 1 in 50 chance for that mob to actually hit you, right? Once he hits you, he's obviously going to bring you below that 1 life. You have a 98% chance, if he was going to bring you below that 1 life, that you will evade death and be left with 1 life instead. So that every time an enemy hits you, there's approximately a 1 in 2,500 chance they're actually going to kill you, even though you're at 1 HP, or even if you're at 1 HP. We're not normally going to be at 1 HP, but if you are, it's still going to be extremely hard for something to kill you. The only exception to this is dot damage, but dot damage is only going to kill you if you're shadow cursed typically. And we are going to take elemental res on most things just to negate any dots that may get on us. There are like shadow and darkness dots. Unfortunately, we're not going to have too much against those with this build, but it's basically something that's only going to affect you and kill you if you sit in it. Like, you're literally going to have to bathe in the enemies for probably a good minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and we're talking at extremely high difficulties before they're going to be able to take you out with something like that. For the gear, I'm going to go over everything on the unique stats. I am going to show you a specific piece of gear for stat priority, which I think you should try and get that stat on every single piece of your gear, or those stats on every single piece of your gear. So don't really pay too much attention to what I have. I'm going to tell you what you should go for. So obviously we have the helmet that helps with our dodge chance to make us nearly immortal. The other thing that helps us with our defense is this belt. The damage that we're dealt cannot exceed 32% of our max life, so something has to hit us at least 3 times before it's going to bring us down to like around 1 HP, right? And then once we're at the 1 HP, that helmet has the chance of saving us as well. We're regenning this whole time, like you can see. Actually, we're not regenning anymore. We've respected almost entirely out of that. But we've got life on hit, which is right. Where do they show life on hit? Right here. You don't need a whole bunch. Just a little bit is fine because you're firing around so much arrows. Regen was early. Spec out of that. Don't take any regen. Take a bunch of life on hit. You're firing so many arrows that you probably saw in the forge at the start there, my HP's just going brrr, like up crazily. So anytime that we do take that damage, it's usually healed instantly. You don't typically see your health bar actually go down when you take damage, as long as you're shooting. Those are basically what makes up your defense. Now we can go over the offense ones a little bit. Very simple one, Pads of the Drunken Master. It's going to give you 5 projectiles, and it's going to make it so you fire your projectiles in a circle. It just makes it very easy to clear and map. It doesn't really make us lose too much damage since we're going for bouncing our projectiles around anyway. It might be better to go with the cloning pads. I don't know if I have them here in my inventory. But the ones that can just straight up give you extra projectiles if you're only supposed to fire 1. Those ones might be a little bit better single target. I love the Pads of the Drunken Master. I think they're fun and they do great damage. So you can go with either or. Just get one that gives you a whole bunch of extra projectiles. Ultrasound Wave, we went over before. It's just for the mana lock. Rebound. So this one, it has 99% chance to fork on hit. Because of this, technically, you wouldn't want to get fork on anything other than like one piece of gear unless this rolls to 100%. I don't know if it does. If it does roll to 100%, okay, we got 59.8%. So you'd want that to basically read 0 there, because you're going to be rebounding. You want to get your pierce right, so it's guaranteed to pierce the enemies. If you could even get this up to 200%, that'd be great, because as soon as it pierces through the enemies and it hits the enemies or the wall to rebound, it's gonna fork. So you don't really need forking chance in the tree, and this makes it a huge scaler, right? Because you've put so much into your pierce and rebound chance, and you were able to take that percent damage node, right? So instead of taking the extra projectiles, that when it does fork, it becomes like a whole extra layer of projectiles, huge amount of damage. We went over Fenrir's Barrage. It's pretty straightforward. It helps you kill the enemies with the shield, and it's a free extra skill. Probably could change this out for something else, not lose much damage. Oh, thank you, sir. You're just jealous, I know. I'm making a video right now, Vision. The boots effect. Whenever you cast a projectile, it has a 10% chance to accelerate and gain 167% projectile speed and 43% crit chance. Obviously, that is great. We went over that projectile speed is damage percent for us on arrow shot earlier, and 43% free crit chance. We're already close to 100% crit chance with this build, but it's just extra crit chance. I'm still not 100% sure whether you can crit on a crit in this game. I haven't done significant testing. Probably something I'll do down the line. Defense on both rings is increased by 30%. This is just going to help with your evasion. Ideally, you want to slam percent evasion, I'd say, not the flat evasion like I did. But either or, honestly, as long as it's like you're trying to get as high of an evasion stat as possible in both of those, it's going to be solid. The belt, we already went over. Celestial Decree. Celestial Decree, I'll explain here for a second, is the only reason that we lock some of our life. It's not huge. It's not a great amount of damage, but it does help, especially help out Fenrir's Barrage to clear out those ones that have shields, right? When the aura is toggled on, you have a 70% chance. I'll move my mic a little bit. I'm realizing that it's right in front of my face. You have a 70% chance to trigger it, dealing a bunch of damage, or not a bunch of damage, but some damage to a random enemy. You have a 25% chance to trigger another one, and the percentage on that is equal to your life lock. That's the only reason that we're locking 25% of our life. It's not a huge chance, but if that does manage to proc, then we get a 150% chance, because it's our mana lock, to trigger a another one on top of that. So we can potentially hit 3, which would be an okay amount of damage. How do you lock your life on this build? We only lock 25% of our life. No, I can explain it here once I'm done the video again. I'm just working on a video right now. Chess piece, evasion multiplier for obvious reasons. Critical strike chance when you're not dealt damage. We're taking this obviously because we're a dodge build. We don't take damage very often, so that's 32% free critical strike chance. Already went over the helmet, already went over the shoulder pads, already went over this. All right, we've gone over all the unique effects. Just trying to think if there's any last things that I want to go over. I don't think so. I think that's it. And look at the stats here if anybody wants to see. We're at 99% crit chance. We take the ultimatum for crit damage. Our runes, we almost forgot our runes. I just go with the activation rune of Corey. Ever so long in combat, your rune goes off. Rune of the Sharpshooter for extra projectiles. More projectiles, more damage with the bow. And any arrow skill. And then the Constraint rune, just to make it go off more often. I'll go through the stats here one more time. 4,500 life. Having a lot of life doesn't matter because of this belt. Projectile speed, huge scalar. Locking your mana, huge scalar. All the evasion, huge scalar. Last thing I almost forgot is your stats. So this right here is just about perfect, I'd say, for this build. If you had these stats exactly on every single piece of your gear, that would be min-maxed. Now, obviously the percents could be a little bit off or whatever, but this is exactly what you're looking for, minus the fork chance. Change that to rebound chance, you're golden. If rebound chance isn't there, get your HP on hit there, or anything else you want. Aura effects, you are using a lot of auras that will put up the damage or put your spread a little bit tighter. But this is what you want. You want the double evasion. The 41% evasion, I'm not 100% on this yet. It seems to roll highest on, well, I know it rolls highest on base stats, but I'm pretty sure I slam both the evasion percent off this and this from a chess piece. Not 100% on that because I don't have any other evasion percents, but I think that it may roll higher that way. If not, if I'm just crazy, make sure to get evasion on your base stat. Do not get raw damage anywhere like I have. It's not good. It's not going to help this build that much. And the reason for that is just the raw damage calculation here. So if you're looking at what we've got here, the base value 4,800, that's coming from our Reaper. Added flat, that's coming from our gear. Added percent, that's coming from our gear. That amount is going to be just under 36,000, right? I'm being generous too because I'm making the added percent 100%, right? The amount we're getting from mana lock is 267,000, and I know we don't have a bunch of raw on our gear, but that is a huge amount, and it's going to go up even higher when you go and replace things like this, right? That raw damage could be gone, and that evasion could be sitting at 43%, right? I think it might go even higher. No, 43.8. It's the highest it can possibly go. So if you've got that stacked to the moon, just like this piece right here, you got that on everything, you're going to be doing even more damage than I am. Projectile speed is huge. Double evasion. Those are your huge scalars on your gear. Damage elites is really nice too. That's going to be another scaler for elites specifically, and help them get down. And then you'll just get your crit and stuff like that where you can, right? Yeah, I don't think there's too much more for me to cover here. If you need to, you don't have, like, one thing I'll specify too, don't kill yourself over projectile speed being an epic stat instead of a magic stat. As long as you're getting a pure stat on there for projectile speed and double evasion, the damage is going to be absolutely massive. It's going to be great. You're going to be loving it. I'm going to sum up the video here. It's a mana locking archer that you convert your evasion into mana and then seal your mana to get 20% of that as raw damage. That's the gist of the build. Thank you for watching. If you got any questions, you can ask me below. I'm sorry if the audio is out of sync on the video. My camera's being weird today for whatever reason. Just cover my camera. That I probably told that pretty late. But yeah.